Hi everyone, it's Veronica and welcome back to my channel. This video is actually going to be about the ordinary wizarding level examinations readathon that happened back in April. It was from April 1st to April 30th, and a fellow booktuber, book roast, you guys know her as G, she actually came up with this fun readathon for us. It's themed Harry Potter, and you had a choice of different careers or different, there were extra credits you could do to add on to it if you wanted to. You could pick one career or more than one if you wanted to, but each career had a specific set of requirements. You had to read so many books for the prompts. So the career I chose was journalist or writer, and the prompts that I had were, I had to read for History of Magic, Muggle Studies, and one other subject of your choice. So I actually chose Defense Against Dark Arts. And for History of Magic, I chose a book that featured witches and wizards, so I actually chose Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And for Muggle Studies, it was a book from a perspective of a Muggle or contemporary, and I chose All the Bright Places. And the last book I chose for Defense Against Dark Arts had to do with Grindylows, a book set at the sea or coast. So I actually chose The House of Salt and Sorrows. And I will go through and give you book reviews of each of these, as well as my OWL results at the end of the video. So for the first book I did for the readathon, like I said, I chose Harry Potter and Sorcerer's Stone. For those of you out there who know nothing about Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling wrote this series of books, and it is about a young wizard named Harry Potter. He doesn't know that he's a wizard. He comes to live, all he knows is his parents died in a car crash, supposedly, and he came to live with his aunt and uncle and cousin. But when he turns 11, he gets invited to come to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry and learn how to hone his craft as a wizard. But he has a lot of trials and tribulations to go through. There is a dark wizard called Lord Voldemort who actually murdered Harry's parents along with many other people, and he's out to get Harry. He's his unfinished business and he wants to get rid of him. But the headmaster of the school, Albus Dumbledore, basically is the one protecting and shielding Harry from Voldemort till Harry is strong enough and able to defend himself in a wizard duel against the greatest Dark Lord of all time. I gave this a 5 out of 5 star rating. This is not the first time I read this book. I actually started reading this when I was in my early 20s, and I got into Harry Potter because of some of the special ed kids I used to work with. They were reading it for English as a second language, and I asked them what they were reading, and they were telling me about it, and it sounded interesting, so I started to read the series, and every time the book came out, I went and got the next one in the series, and now I have the entire series, at least one full set. I'm working on getting a second set with different covers. But I really enjoy this book. It's very easy to read and follow along with. I had no problem understanding it. And a lot of people out in the booktube community and in the bookstore community, or people in general who have read it, have loved the series. Everybody has their favorite book. Most people say the first one is their favorite because it's the beginning of the journey. I like this one, but my favorite is actually book 3, which is Prisoner of Azkaban. The next book I read for the readathon was All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. This was the contemporary book that I chose. This was actually the very first contemporary book I've ever read, and I didn't think I would like contemporary fiction, but now I do. This story is about a girl named Violet and a young boy named Finch. Violet lost her older sister in a car accident, and Finch comes along in her life wherein she didn't think she needed anybody, either a friend or someone just to talk to or to listen to her. But they first meet on the ledge at their school, looking down over the courtyard. Finch is trying to stay awake. He has a sort of medical condition where if he falls asleep, he'll die. And he has to stay awake all the time. And he goes up on the ledge feeling suicidal tendencies and he wants to jump. But he looks over at the last second and sees Violet standing there ready to jump, and he stops her from jumping. And that begins their on again, off again friendship. And he helps her through her grief of her sister, because it's actually the first year since her sister passed. And he helps her get through that. They're forced to work together on a project for class where they have to find different places within their town or their city where they're at and document it. And I think they said they were allowed to pick between 2 and 6 different locations, and they have to write about it and take pictures to prove they were there. And on this journey, they both talk about their past and what happened to them and what made them go to that ledge at school. Violet's case, it was her sister passing, and in Finch's case, it was his abusive dad and everything that happened to him since his parents divorced. And he was trying to help his sister and his older sister and his younger sister and help their mom. This was a really good book. I did enjoy it. It reminded me, the writing style reminded me a lot of 5 Feet Apart, for those of you who are familiar with that story. I didn't like the film on Netflix. They left a lot out of the story, and the book goes back and forth between Violet's side and then Finch's side of the same scene. But in the film, it jumped too far ahead in the storyline and it left you confused. But the book is definitely a great read, and I will definitely be on the lookout for more books by Jennifer Niven. And when I do find them, I will definitely let you guys know. And the last book that I read for the readathon was House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. This is actually a retelling of the fairy tale classic, The 12 Dancing Princesses. In this version, Anna Lee Thalmus is one of 12 sisters, but unfortunately 3 of them have already died mysteriously. No one knows why or how or by whom. And the book starts with the most recent death of one of their sisters. And Annalie wants to know why. She knows that this particular sister that passed would not make an irrational decision, that someone either forced her to make the decision or just killed her for no apparent reason. But Annalie is now the second oldest sister, and their father has recently remarried and his new wife is expecting twins. But the stepmother doesn't really get along with the older girls. The younger girls she does, because they were too little to remember their own mother when she had passed. But with this story in particular, I actually had a very hard time getting through this. I actually had to force myself to finish reading this. I wanted to find out what happened, but at the same time it was difficult for me to follow along and understand it. I will definitely give this a second try later on, but right now it seemed like it was just too much information for me to process. But as far as the story went, it was alright. I mean, I like the character of Anna Lee. She was strong-willed, independent, and fierce, and wanted to protect her siblings. But she also wanted to find out what caused their most recent sister's death, and also if there were any clues as to her two older sisters who had passed. Why were someone killing their family? Why were they being targeted? But they end up getting new dancing shoes because there's a mysterious party that they get invited to. And it's always a different location at these parties. They go through a secret cave, through a portal to get to them, and they don't know who their host is. But at one of the parties, someone comes up to Annalie and says, "You'll be next." And of course she gets scared and tries to tell her father about it, and he doesn't want to listen, and he doesn't believe her. But one of their old childhood friends does, and he tries to help her find out who the killer is and why their family's being targeted. I've heard off and on good and bad things about this from other people. Some people liked the book, some people didn't like it, but they read it to persevere and get through it. But a lot of them would not give it a second chance. I'm willing to, like I said, I will give it a second chance. I'll try it. If I can't, I will more than likely save this for a future giveaway that I will do over on my Bookstagram page. But I will let you guys know what my thoughts are again when I do reread it, and if I change my opinion of it. But out of a 5-star rating, this right now would probably get a 3. All the Right Places that I read would have a 5-star rating. So for my OWL results, I had to read the 3 subjects, which I did, for my chosen career, and I actually passed all of my OWLs. So I will get to participate in the Newts Read-a-thon when that comes around. But this was the first year and my very first time participating in the OWL Read-a-thon, and a huge shout out to G for creating this. It was definitely a lot of fun. I never read 3 books in a month ever, let alone 3 books at a time. I broke it down to reading 4 chapters a day from each book to help me get through it. I planned on taking my time and figure, okay, it'll take me all month to read all 3 books. It only took me 2 weeks to read the books, which shocked me, and I know it surprised a few of my other friends who thought, who knew I'm a slow reader, and they were actually really surprised to see that I could read that many that quickly. 2 of them having never read before, but breaking it down that way did make it a lot easier. So if you guys did participate in the OWL Read-a-thon, let me know down in the comments below what was your chosen career and what books did you read for the read-a-thon. And until next time, happy reading.